When you get these big, expansive Minecraft mega bases, landmarks are really important. We've got the tower stretching nearly to build height with its stunning interior, the massive triumphal arch forming the center of the marketplace, and Trozo's incredible storm build that's always visible in the distance. And I have another big landmark type build plan that's coming very soon, but this episode is not about landmarks. This episode is about the spaces between, the quiet, liminal places where your eyes move from one focal point to the next. This episode is about the subtle areas, the places that you would never point out if you walked through a build, but that would be immersion breaking if they weren't there. This episode is about the back of the build, and the side. Well, pretty much if it's a bit unexciting and your eyes would normally slide right over it, yeah, this episode is about those things. Wow, I'm not doing a great job of selling this, am I? Don't worry, it'll be great. Trust me. I've only just barely gotten started, but I think this is a really good example of what texturing does to a build. I mean, if you look at the little section that I've done and compare it to what I still have left to do, I think there's a huge difference. And by the way, I did do this side over here, I just didn't include it in the time lapse. Now, one of the important things, and one of the kind of difficult things about these transitional builds that your eyes are just supposed to sort of gloss over as you go from one landmark to the next, is that they need to be detailed enough that they don't look out of place, but not quite so detailed that they're eye-catching. So, for example, on this side of this market building, I'm not gonna do the same thing that I did on this side where it's really detailed and really pretty. Hello there. Because at least for me personally, I think this is quite eye-catching, so what I think I'm gonna do over here is just a sort of minimized version of that. But before we get into the details, I kind of want to change the shape of this a little bit because it's a little bit blocky, just a little bit boring. So let's just find a way to change that up a tiny little bit. It's very, very simple, but I really like the idea of having a little bit of a docking station in the back because up in the front, we have all the boats that come out from the ocean, they come into the harbor, and then they'll unload here. Of course, I still need to make those boats, but once they're finally made, we'll have like an area for them to dock in the front and then an area in the back. And of course, we've got this really long winding road that's eventually going to have houses and stuff along the sides, but it's just really good to have a sort of destination. So all of these wagons that are coming down here, I'll have to make a bunch more wagons eventually, but this can be something of a storage area. Maybe I'll put like some chests and barrels all throughout here and a couple more buildings. And of course, it's really important to remember that this isn't supposed to be a highlight. This is, I mean, it's not going to be an area that we're looking at a lot, but as your eyes drift over it, I want it to make the city feel more alive. And so to that aim, I think it's time we do a whole bunch of building decoration. And this is really what I meant. We've got a lot of detail here, but it's really unobtrusive. Lots of things are repeating, like all of these windows, the exact same pattern going all the way down. Like all the dormers are basically exactly the same. It's the kind of thing that as you're walking along this road, it's probably not going to catch your eye, but it's also not going to make you think, oh, well, he didn't finish this part of the build. And that's very important. One thing that I did do is I added this little, I'm not entirely sure what this is supposed to be. I'm thinking that maybe we can add like a door right here and it'll be a way to get into the attic, or maybe out of the attic onto the roof. I don't know, like a picnic table or something up here. There's really no plans for this, but I felt like this roof, it was a good callback to the little, I don't know, what are these roofs called? Kind of wizard hat shape that we've got there. We've just got the same thing there. So as you're looking out on this road, you're passing by, you're just gonna see, okay, I mean, there's another one. There's one off in the distance, and here's one here. I mean, it's really not cerebral or anything. I'm just trying to make it fit into the surroundings. And speaking of fitting into the surroundings, I think that we need to do a little bit of something about this area. Maybe we can do about the same sort of, let me go to the front, the same sort of little pattern that we have on all of the roads, and I probably will introduce some of this mud, brick, and dirt, and mushroom block as well. But maybe more important than that, I also want to make some sort of structure here. Nothing really special or anything, but maybe like a storage building. I don't know, give me a couple hours to maybe think through what I want to build, and I'll come back and we'll see what happens. Well, to be completely honest, I didn't actually plan to get this much done, but just over the course of the past week or so, I've been pretty busy, and it turned out that I did all of the little bits in just little tiny sections, so it just, I don't know, I just ended up turning it into a pretty long time lapse, but hopefully you guys enjoyed it, because there's a lot of cool stuff here, and I'm just going to get right into it. I guess the first thing I should do is I should note that this isn't really even supposed to be viewed from this angle, because it's not really a place that I think people are often going to go in the city, but I still wanted it to be good enough that if somebody did decide to fly down here, it would still look, you know, good to look at, which is why I've got like all the different kinds of wood. Well, not all of the kinds of wood, but a small selection of types of wood. We've got like redstone, some armor stands. Maybe I'll put some armor on those, like some bits of flour with the composters with a little bit of bone meal kind of poking up at the top. I really like this one. And then all of it together with a whole bunch of random assorted barrels and chests and some beehives, which I think look really, really good. And then just a little workbench over here. I mean, like, I don't really know what any of this is supposed to be. It's all just supposed to be a place where workers come through and they load up these wagons and everything gets shipped off to different parts of the city. Probably should fly up and go to sleep so that no mob spawn, because I haven't lit up any of this. Hey guys, this is Future Purple here, and I gotta be a little bit careful where I look because I've done some extra work, and we'll get to that in a second. But basically my mic cut out, so I need to tell you what I'm about to talk about, and I'm about to talk about this building right here, which I'm very proud of. That's pretty much it. Now back to past me. Okay, so I went to the internet to go and check what type of roof this is actually called, and I didn't find a definitive answer, and it also started raining, so that's great. I guess this would be called a pyramid roof, but it's like sort of an elongated pyramid roof because, you know, a pyramid goes up to a single point, whereas this one goes up to 2 on this side and 2 on that side, and there's like a long... This is like interesting to nobody but myself. Let's just suffice it to say that it took quite a bit of finagling to get it to work. We've got like, you know, the whole building is at an angle, and then the roof goes up to an angle on each of these sides, and then this side is also angled up to a point. And yeah, basically just be proud of me, guys. I did a good thing, I think. Now, before we move on from this, oh dear. And just before we move on from this, I just want to do like a little run down this street to get a little bit of a glimpse of what this will look like out of the corner of our eye. And I think it does the job. Like, it does not really catch my eye as I'm running by, but as I'm looking over, you know, it looks like there's stuff here. It looks like something's going on. Personally, I think the little brown for the dirt does a really good job of just making it slightly interesting, but not so interesting that we have to look over here. I think this is a job well done. Okay, that scared me. What I'd like to move on to next is this building right here, the one right above. You can see I did just a tiny little bit of work on it with adding the granite and brick pattern, but I want to do something just a little bit better than that up above, because this is really, really bad. And also, you know, we got to do this side, because this side is actually something that you see quite a bit from this angle. Like, here we go. I love to just stand on here and look out over the marketplace, and you can always see that building up there. So I want to make especially that corner just look not so plain. And wow, I do really like that little tower thing on there. I don't know what it's supposed to be, but I think it looks good. So we're gonna get that done. And the other thing that I need to get done is the backs of these buildings, because despite the fact that pretty much nobody is ever gonna see these, it's still gonna bother me if I don't have at least something here. And like, if I ever go to do an interior, I'm gonna have to have a back of the building. So let me just gather a few resources real fast and let's get to work. And we're starting by tearing things down so that we can build it back in a more interesting way. I don't want any of these details to be eye-catching, so I've chosen to stick within a fairly narrow range of colors, with the most extreme probably being the slightly brighter jungle wood. Next, I'm going to add a back to some of these buildings and extend the roofs out a bit. Like I mentioned before, the back of this building is actually quite visible, so I want to make it look a bit more interesting from a distance than the others, which is why I've introduced some birch trapdoors. Meanwhile, for the lower portion, we can just do something simple. And finally, I've got to add a small section to the monument since it'll just barely be visible from the side. That little gap where the window is kind of bothering me. Let's just come in here and break down this portion, put this right here, and then we can put in the birch trapdoor like so. Whoopsie. Okay, that's a lot better. Ladies and gentlemen, I have a problem, and it has absolutely nothing to do with the building we just did. It has to do with these, and these, and these, and definitely these. Yeah, I may have an automatic sorting system up in the tower, but I have not been doing a very good job of staying on top of all the shulker monsters I'm making. Fortunately, I think there's something we can do about this. Man, I really like this nether portal. Now let's fly over to the city, because there is a shop over here that I think is going to be incredibly useful. And I'm pretty sure it's right here. Let's come inside. Yep, this is definitely what I'm looking for. Oh, yep. Wow, that is quite the jump, Starkings. No, but the reason I'm here is because this is the Doki Made Cafe. We specialize in cleaning, organizing, and restoring the messiest corners of Doki. And I don't know, guys, I may or may not have the messiest corner on the server. So let's go ahead and take this book real fast, because I need to fly back to my base, and we got to figure out the coordinates for all the little shulker monsters that we have there. And then if I do that, then I should be able to get a quote. Hopefully it's not too expensive. And I'm thinking we should put this one first because this one's pretty manageable. Gotta sort of lure them into a false sense of security. Okay, so let's see. Job, description, and then coordinates. So the job is going to be shulker monster cleanup. The description, I have a lot of shulker monsters. Please clean them for me. And now for the coordinates. That's 1. I suppose with these two, I can sort of move them closer together so it's a little easier to handle. And let's just plop all of these down here. Okay, add in those coordinates. And then lastly, we're gonna have to fly back over here to the military base. And this one's kind of a doozy because I think a lot of these are also, well, not all of them. Okay, it's not as bad as it could be. And that should be the last one. And now I'm pretty sure the only thing that I need to do is come back here and let's just put the book right back where we found it. And wow, I really like this interior. This is beautiful. Okay, done. I suppose we can take a second to stop by the thrift shop with our little Perry the Platypus mural on the side because I love to stop by the thrift shop. Let's just look through some of the chests and see if I need to be refilling them. I mean, yeah, I could probably do that. Here's all the profits. So, you know what? Actually, let's just do that right now. Let's just take all of the profits and we'll just put it back into the shop. All right, that's a job well done. Actually, maybe I should be using the maid cafe to come over and clean up all this dust because this is looking pretty dusty up here. All right, back to work. Now, to be honest, I'm actually feeling really happy with how this is looking, but I think there's one more thing we can do, and that has to do with the canals because as of right now, I don't know, they're just kind of here. There's nothing around them. They're just little bits of water that we can guess that maybe a ship is going through. But I think maybe we can take our first step into sort of integrating these into the city. You see, there's a really good reason why I extended the building all the way out here to the docks. Or I guess saying docks kind of spoils what I'm about to say, but it was pretty obvious anyway. Because aside from just having the wagons and the roads to carry stuff all the way around the city, we've also got this canal system, so I think it'd be really cool to put a boat in here. And the main issue that I have is that I want the canal to be traversable in both directions, so I think I'm gonna have to make the boat pretty thin, you know, like maybe just 2 blocks wide. And now this may seem a little bit small, but I really think you guys might be surprised by how much we can fit into this 2x2 area because we now have these. We have shelves, and shelves are just a fantastic new addition. In fact, let me, this is probably the way I need to do this. I need to grab my netherite axe and let's destroy this. And then I'm just gonna raise this up 1 like so, and then 1 on this side. And look at this, like, we've got 2 blocks, we've got walls, and the walls only extend a tiny little bit out. And now imagine a long boat in this design sort of filled with cargo and chests and all sorts of random stuff. That's what I'm gonna put right here. Alright, rain or shine, the episode must go on, and I've got a question for you. Which one of these looks better? See, I initially made it with just the spruce wood, but I felt like it needed, I don't know, like a little touch of something else, and so I did one side with dark oak and then the other side with regular oak. Oh, you guys are saying you like the oak better? You know, I mean, I kind of felt like maybe the dark oak was a little bit better, but if you insist. No, it's fine. It's fine. Let's just add oak onto this side. All right. Well, the people have spoken, and this guy down here is turned into a drown. So I'd say we're nearing the end of the episode. You know, seriously, I'm actually not entirely sure what to do with the boat. I think this looks fine, but I don't know. You guys let me know down in the comments what you think I should do with it. I do feel like maybe the oak isn't it. Okay, so I did a little bit of random decorating, and I think this looks a little better, especially with like the birds trapdoors in the middle. And then also kind of softened it up in the back by using the packed mud instead of the oak wood. But I was thinking maybe I could even take it just a little bit further and we can add like some buttons in. Oh, wait. I always forget I need to do it like this because otherwise the entire stack will go there. But if we just put a button inside of every single one of these, then I think this can look really cool from far away. I don't know, let me know what you guys think about this boat, but I think we better fill it before we end the episode. Why does the armor stand not have a helmet? What happened over here? Unfortunately, in life, there are a lot of questions that are just never gonna be answered. Fortunately, the question of whether or not I like this build is very, very easy to answer. I love it. I feel like we did a fantastic job making it just like a little... Well, like, I don't like using the word boring, but like boring is kind of the word. Like there's a lot of repetition. It's not quite as interesting as some of the other areas in the base, but like, I mean, when I look over here, despite the fact that everything is static, it does feel like it's a little bit alive with the wagon and the boat, and I could just imagine all of this stuff being loaded up and shipped around the city. Anyway, guys, that's where I'm going to end the episode. I really hope you enjoyed this episode as I enjoyed making it. And I'm just going to do one last look over because I really like this. And, oh, and like the little splash of color there with the, what do I call that? The armor stand and then the diamond armor on it. I don't know. I think this is a nice touch. But yes, again, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next episode.